So far, all of your code may have run without any problems, but unfortunately, that won't always be so. When things do go wrong, Visual Studio will do its best to tell you what the problem is. You've already seen a build error in Lesson 1.8, but those only appear when Visual Studio is able to detect a problem before the code runs. Exceptions appear when something goes wrong while the code is running. By looking at the exception, you will hopefully be able to work out what the problem is. First, open the C# test sample file from your sample files folder. And open debugme.aspx.cs, which is the code behind file of debugme.aspx. There is some code in here that you won't recognize, but the important thing is that it's going to cause an error by trying to divide by 0. You will understand everything that this code is doing after Lesson 5.10. You're now going to run this page's code to cause an exception, so start debugging to view debugme.aspx in debug mode. Click the Crash Me button, and you should be brought back to Visual Studio. If you're not, switch back to it manually without closing the browser window. As you can see, the line that caused the exception is now highlighted in yellow, and a box showing the details of the exception is displayed. This exception is very obvious. The error message at the top of the box tells you that it was caused by attempting to divide by 0. Unfortunately, not all error messages are as easy to understand, but Visual Studio offers a number of tools to help you find out about exceptions. You'll notice that the exception window shows a list of troubleshooting tips. You can click on them to read articles relevant to the problem, which might help you to fix it. You can also click Search for more help online to be redirected to a search page, which will allow you to search Microsoft's articles for anything relevant. An exception is more than just an error message. It has properties, just like the controls on your page. To view the exception's properties, click the View Detail link and expand System.DivideBy0 exception. The most important properties of the exception are inner exception, message, source, and stack trace. The inner exception property will contain another exception if this one had a deeper cause. Essentially, the inner exception is the exception that caused this one. Since this exception didn't have a deeper cause, the inner exception is null. Null is a value that literally means nothing. A property with a value of null is considered not to have a value. It's important to note that there's a difference between 0 and null, since 0 is a number and null is the absence of a number. You'll learn more about null in Lesson 5.12. The message property is the error message that you've already seen displayed on the main exception box. Source is the namespace that caused the error. You'll learn all about namespaces in Lesson 6.4. Finally, the stack trace property shows the exact operation that caused the error. If you read it, you'll see that the first line tells you that it originated in the button crash click event handler. You're now going to fix the problem. Click OK and stop debugging either by closing the web browser or clicking Debug. Stop debugging. Now change the line that says int denominator equals 0 to int denominator equals 2. View the page in debug mode and click the button. Instead of an error, the result of 10 divided by 2 is displayed. You've now completed Lesson 3.5. Understand the exception object.